From Learfield, this is the Chirpcast, your source for everything Ball State athletics.
Welcome into this special edition of Chirpcast with Athletic Director Beth Goetz. I'm Mick Tidrow. Beth, we'll get to it as we go throughout Chirpcast, but this is the final week for you, wrapping things up at Ball State. But just starting off, state of athletics before you head off to Iowa. What has impressed you most about the start of the fall?
Yeah, I think, this is the best time of the year. The enthusiasm, the commitment that the student athletes arrive with, and just, seeing those that have stepped into more senior roles, take on those leadership positions and take on ownership. And then watching the young ones, some ready to step in and contribute right away. But all of them excited to be a Cardinal, excited to get started in their classes again, and ready to compete. So it's been a lot of fun, and certainly we've got some fall sports that have done some exciting things already, and lots to look forward to this year.
Now let's talk about these fall sports that are having some success. Football comes off its first win against Murray State. Volleyball went down, beat Alabama. They've beaten Oklahoma. They've had some big wins this year. Field hockey is just winning games left and right as well. How would you assess the state of those three teams at this point?
Yeah, I think, let me start with women's volleyball. They've had just a tremendous run over the last couple of years. Incredibly well-coached team by Kelly Phillips, and they've got a lot of returning talent. So a little hiccup over the weekend here, I think, but this is a team that knows how to win, that has the ability to regroup and really focus on the next play, the next game, and as conference play gets started, I think they're going to be, just where they were last year, which is competing for that MAC championship again.
And then on the football side, with the 0-2 start, pretty tough to start against Tennessee, and then MAC in week 2, trying to fit all that into a bubble. Pretty big win against Murray State.
Yeah, I think, from a confidence standpoint, really able to get the offense going again, I think was wonderful. But, I was really impressed the way, I thought we did some great things against Tennessee and certainly a challenging team for sure. But, the game against Western Michigan is what MACtion is all about. Yeah. Right? Two really strong football teams, very well coached, and a lot of times this is what we see. They come down to one-score games and who has possession at the end, and so that was a great one to get started off with. But we were right there. So a lot to build on here as they head to Georgia Southern, and then one more non-conference game after that. But I think they'll be in the thick of things here as MAC play gets started.
We'll get to the last non-conference game for Ball State football coming up, but field hockey's been tremendous this year. New coaching staff, players have come in and just accepted everything. How have you seen the coaching staff just take this program over and run with it?
Yeah, Caitlin, just as a first-time head coach, has a tangible maturity to the way that she engages with them. She's got a quiet confidence, a great level of an enthusiasm that the athletes have really responded to. On the field, and I'm certainly not an expert in that sport, but just watching the way they play, they've got more confidence on the offensive side. They're creating a lot more opportunities, and they just look a little bit more relaxed out there. So it's great to see them see that turning into some results, and I think there's great things ahead for that program.
Absolutely, a team that's continuing to get better and better. It seems like every time they take the field, and on the competing side. We're with Athletic Director Beth Goetz here on Chirpcast. Beth, UConn is Ball State's last non-conference game. It's a little bit later in the season. You won't be here for it, but how special was that process to be able to have UConn come to Ball State with your former ties there?
Yeah, and they've actually competed before in football, as a matter of fact. So, but that was one of the early games that we scheduled, and really less to do with the fact that I came from UConn, and it's a puzzle. Football scheduling is a puzzle, and as they were moving into becoming an independent, we had an opening that worked well with some other shuffles that played out. So I think that'll be good competition, certainly for both teams. They've got a first-year head coach, and it'll be exciting just to see a little bit of a different brand of football from the Northeast.
So how weird have these last couple of weeks been for you, Beth?
Well, it's just you have such mixed emotions, and I'm grateful for that because I've just I've so enjoyed my time here. I feel so fortunate that I've had an opportunity to work with a tremendous group of coaches, just outstanding young men and women that have gone through these programs, and certainly under the leadership of President Mern. So it's been a really special part of the journey. I've learned a lot and just have been so grateful to be part of the great things that are going on here at Ball State. So it's always hard to say goodbye when something means a lot to you, and that's the case here.
You talk about President Mearns. What's that breakdown and the dynamic between president and athletic director? I don't think a lot of people know that the president has such a big influence on how the athletic director is brought in and how that process plays out. Yeah,
and it's true for any campus leader of several units, but certainly in athletics, I think that's an incredibly important role. And in our case, we're really fortunate. So President Mearns is a former Division I athlete. He serves in several and now NCAA committee capacities. So he's very involved in the college landscape and understands what we do. And he believes in the transformational value that athletics can play as part of the educational experience at the college level. And so we're incredibly fortunate to have a leader who sees that value and supports it. And certainly personally, it's been just great to see how he guides and leads all of campus, and certainly we're a part of that. But there's not too many people like him who have that level of character and commitment and passion and just breadth of expertise across so many areas. And so it's been a pleasure to watch him work and to serve him.
Has he challenged you or anybody in athletics to a race yet?
Well, that's a funny question because most of us would lose. So, I didn't realize I was going to have to pick up my running game when I arrived here. But one of the memories I always have is when we travel for football games. We go out on runs, and something we've done. I'm sure most people do when they're on the road. For those that are runners and across other institutions as well. But we get to run with President Mearns when he's with us, and I can tell you he certainly keeps pace. He has to do a lot of the talking. The rest of us are just trying to breathe and not trip over anything as we keep up with him. But that's been a special thing for me and for some of our staff that have gotten to go on those runs too.
Absolutely. With Athletic Director Beth Goetz here on Chirpcast. Beth, it's first couple weeks of the semester. It's always a crazy time for everybody because it feels like crossover season because the season's just started and we haven't hit true crossover season yet. But as it stands at the beginning of the fall, what are your main duties as an athletic director to get everybody ready for the seasons?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is preparation, right? And so helping all of the support staff make sure that we have our planning in order. And you've got this immediacy with when you're on a football campus, right? You've got events coming, and how are you going to navigate all of that? But in the backdrop, it may feel like basketball season and gymnastics and everything else is months away. But it's really making sure you've sort of gone through the list and are ready to execute those events, and certainly have everything in place in terms of student athlete support that you need to. And so a lot of planning and then quick execution and pivoting. So there's always going to be challenges or things that you didn't anticipate as well as you should have that you have to adjust to. But it just really is an exciting time of the year.
So you say basketball season seems like it's months away. Gymnastics seems like it's months away. How fast do those sports actually come up and find your schedule in the front of your face?
It goes quickly, right? So they'll begin formal practice here in next month, wow. and then you've got competition, and so they're already working hard. Both men's and women's have been practicing over the summer and getting in workouts. Just saw the men out there warming up before I came to see you this morning, and so it happens quickly. And I don't know, at least certainly not in my tenure, but I think looking back, even for a handful of years before that, there's been this much anticipation around both men's and women's basketball heading into a season. And just so excited for the Cardinals fan base and the community to get to experience what this is going to look like this season.
Why do you think there's more anticipation than ever?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One, Brady Saleh's team played in the championship last year. We return a lot of those athletes he's added, who I think are going to be some really strong contributors. And so they're going to be legitimate contenders, I think, for the MAC championship going into next year. And they are a fun team to watch. He's got a group whose culture is incredibly strong. They enjoy each other. They enjoy their time and are committed to wanting to do that. And so really excited to see how he adds these pieces of expertise in. I think he's got some talent that'll really take them to the next level. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And certainly the addition of Michael Lewis. I'm not sure you could script a better start without having played a game yet, of course,
yes.
Right? But a better start to somebody's tenure. And he comes in, certainly what we would all consider late in the recruiting game, was able to retain our best talent, which was really important, added a few pieces. But he's just got, he's got a competitiveness about him that we already see in the guys on the court at practice. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And as you now know, as you've gotten to engage with him a little bit, I mean, his passion is just contagious.
Yeah, it is.
It's been contagious in our department. It's contagious in the community. I mean, he's everywhere. He's just really, decided, hey, I'm going to be part of this Ball State community. And I think he's been welcomed with open arms, and it's just the perfect fit for Ball State and who we are.
What was that process like to get Coach Lewis because of the run for UCLA, him being in the thick of things, and you said late in the recruiting process for a coach? What was that entire process like?
Yeah, they're a whirlwind, right, when you go through that. And I actually was on the women's basketball committee.
Right,
so I'm
on top of that.
Right, so you're sort of in selections and running a championship, trying to recruit coaches and take interviews in your free time. And so, he was always one of our, key targets. Michael and I had worked together previously. We know his ties to the state of Indiana. And so as as we settled on that piece, as we had opportunities to interview some good candidates, he just quickly rose to the top. And, the first time he sat with President Mearns, was actually before his team lost that last game. We went out to and met him on the road, and it was one of those moments where you said, hey, this is the right guy. He's going to be the leader of the next leader of the men's basketball program. So, and then a credit to him, they finish up their season, which is always difficult, and he hopped on a plane and didn't go back home again for a couple months. So he just hit the ground running.
It's pretty crazy to have a coach go through all of that in the middle of a run with a team like UCLA and then jump and come to Muncie. He mentioned that his family had finally settled in just a couple weeks prior to the school year starting. So yeah. It's pretty wild just to see how all of that breaks out.
It does. And that's why, these are family. They really are family professions. His wife and his two daughters are just amazing. And they were finishing school. The cycle in California was a little bit later. And so they couldn't get out here as early as they probably would have chosen to, but it's just been a really great thing to see how he's jumped in. And like I said, I think it's a really good indicator is that Michael Lewis does nothing halfway. He's just all in. He's been all in from the beginning. That's what you're going to get from him. That's what you're going to get from his staff and from his team as well.
I think one of the greatest things about Coach Lewis is he takes the time with everybody, and you see the passion even just in conversation about, could be about, I don't know, golf, table tennis, it could be anything. You're talking about Coach Lewis, he has that full engagement. I want to go back to Brady real fast with women's basketball because Brady has been one of the faces of Ball State athletics for several years now. How has he just continued to elevate his game as a coach and the department as a whole?
Well, I just can't tell you how much I've enjoyed engaging with him over the years. And, he is incredibly introspective, which may not be what people guess about him, right? When he's a little animated on the sidelines, Mick, you know that.
That's fair.
But I do think, over at least, as I've been here, he does a great job of sort of evaluating what he's hearing from his team. How does he respond to that sort of evolving with, what the climate is like? The the 18 to 22-year-olds he's coaching today are different than the 18 to 22-year-olds he was coaching 15 years ago. They just are, but he and his staff have really, I think, leaned into what do they need to tweak and how do they do that, and really listening to the student athletes. And I think that's really been impactful for them. And I think from from the basketball side of things, he had a couple years there with just some tough luck with some injuries. He had a last-minute transfer. I think that was the year last year here.
Yeah.
Somebody that got scooped up by a Power 5 program at what was like the 19th hour.
Yes.
Those are hard to replace, certainly. But his teams, as you already know, you watch this, it's one of the things that is so incredible to watch. Whatever team you start with, however much talent they have, they're going to get better game after game. They're always playing their best basketball at the end of the year. And that's a credit to the way he approaches it and the way that his student athletes buy in.
Beth Goetz joining us here on Chirpcast, a special edition. Beth, September's here, your last couple of days. Normally, what would an athletic director be doing in September under a normal circumstance?
Well, credit to our team. I mean, I think I haven't. It's been about the same really until this week, and that's just we're heavy into supporting our fall sports, just heating up in terms of engagement with our donors, and we've got some key projects that I know they're going to continue to track on. We've got a sports performance center that's a part of the capital campaign that we're trying to execute and want to be able to pursue amongst other facility projects. So, it's there's some cyclical things in college athletics, but some of those things continue on, and that's really what you would be spending your time on in September.
And one of the big things that happened here in September was the Hall of Fame class of 2022. That was a pretty special day, wasn't it?
There's just it's priceless, really. There's no other way to say it than to listen to those individuals experience that type of moment in their life and realize the impact they made on their program and their institution. It's really special.
It was a pretty emotional night. A lot of tears and good tears because of just the impact that so many of those people had.
It wasn't just that authentic response from them and how they feel about their teammates and how they credit the university in terms of the path that it set them on after leaving. But I thought it was just really remarkable. It was actually, this isn't always the way it plays out, but one of the things that was really telling about this particular class, not all, but many of them came as walk-ons or were under-recruited and became these, Hall of Fame level athletes. And I just think that speaks to the type of student that Ball State attracts here and to the commitment that they had to their craft once they arrived.
Yeah, the story that sticks out to me was Jada Phelps when she was walking through being recruited, and her coach said, hey, that's going to be used someday in the Hall of Fame. And after several years, that's where she ended up, and it's such a cool story for her and for everybody that was inducted. You can check out ballstatesports.com to see the entire list of inductees, their stories, their bios. Like Beth mentioned, walk-ons and under-recruited players, and a whole team if you want to look at the 1994 field hockey team as well. Beth, before we let you go, how special has Ball State been to you in your 4.5 years here? Yeah,
it's really hard to it's hard to put into words, and I think everything is about people. It's about who you have an opportunity to spend your days with and work side by side with, and whose team you're on. And there's just a lot of special people here that that mean a lot to you, and that you had a chance to to spend time with each and every day, and to join them on their journey for a while. And so, Ball State will always have a special place in my heart.
Well, Beth, I'm sure I speak for every single person that's been around Ball State, a fan. We all wish you the best at Iowa. We're all following you. We're all rooting for you. So thank you for everything you've done for Ball State the past 4.5 years. We've sure appreciated it.
Thanks, Mick. I appreciate it.
This is Beth Goetz on Chirpcast. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Wherever you get your podcasts, we are there with Athletic Director Beth Goetz. I'm Mick Tidrow signing off from Chirpcast.
This has been the Chirpcast. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation.